What's up, people? It's me, Nate, your host of the Artist Exchange Radio Show. I'm just sharing it out now, trying to. It's been a couple weeks, so I'm a little rusty at this. Artist Exchange Radio. Saying I'm a little rusty at this. I'm just gonna go down and invite you all. If you're tuning in, please like, share, and subscribe, and all that jazz. Um, Sharing it to the Artist Exchange Group that's been in existence for over 12 years. I had to put that out there because some people don't be knowing. They just be stealing and such, bad business practices and whatnot. But we're going to talk a little bit about that as we open up. Our guest today is Miss Catherine Trotter. We first met Miss Catherine Trotter. She's been on the show years ago. She had a youth poetry, entertainment, kind of open mic, youth open mic series that she did, and she traveled around with it. And she did that for a number of years. So we're going to learn the status of that. She has a new consulting business that she's starting to help businesses out. We're going to talk a little bit about that and what she's been doing and how this pandemic has affected her and all that jazz. But we're going to mainly talk about that passion over profit, the idea of that. Some people are against it. Some people don't really like it because everything is business. It's just business right now. And just business is getting a lot of people in trouble because they're putting themselves in businesses and fields of work and things and career paths that they have no business being in because they chasing a dollar. And I'm not for that anymore. And it's starting to get to me in a way that it's never gotten to me before. But ultimately, I'm learning how to, maneuver and, simply, get myself in order. So I'm not being disrupted by those types of business owners. And not just business owners, artists, and all that. So I'll open up by saying the last few weeks have been tremendously difficult for me. I didn't post a lot about it, but I did post about it. My grandmother, my father's mother, passed away. Now it's been almost 3 weeks now. And because of COVID, if you've had to bury anybody during this time, you know that it is a very difficult and challenging time to lose somebody, not just the grief process, but actually getting them buried and all their things to be settled. My grandmother was in a nursing home throughout the pandemic, so that made it tremendously hard because the first 6 or 7 months, nobody was even able to see her, probably until after Christmas. Well, actually this year, I think, was the first time people were actually able to go and see her. What was the Lord? Thought there was a crack on my screen. But to actually see her. So starting maybe, I want to say like in May or June, like right before her birthday. And her birthday is on the 30th of May. And so I think around that time was when we first got to talk to her and see her on a tablet that they allowed each one of the residents of the nursing home to have about 35, 45 minutes of time on the tablet to talk to their family. We all got to log in, and we did this every Tuesday. And it got harder to see her because prior to people being able to go see her, You could see her steadily declining. She was suffering from Alzheimer's, and people know that's a debilitating ailment, in that it physically attacks you and mentally slows you down completely. And that had been going on with her for the last couple of years, but because of the pandemic, it's very hard when your only interactions are nurses. And around this year, the beginning of this year, a few family members who had got tested and vaccinated were then able to go see her. In the beginning, they would bring her out to the first, I think it was through the window, and then they started bringing the patients and residents outside, and it was limited. You had to sit on the opposite side. It felt like you were visiting someone in jail. That's what it felt like. And it, I know it took a toll on my father's family because, she was like the oldest person living, and she kind of took care of everybody. She buried four of her children, one being my dad, in her lifetime, and grandchildren and other family members, brothers and siblings and parents. And she was very strong, to say the least. And to see her succumb to something that debilitated her and kept her kind of in probably a mental prison for a number of years, to know that process is over now gives me a pause, but not knowing how it felt those last couple of weeks. So the last week of her life, she stopped eating. And my aunt spoke about her only eating one day when my cousin Rodney came to visit her. And it was very disheartening not to be able to. So I had not physically seen her since 2019, the end of 2019. So to go through this all whole time and only see her through like a screen like this, and then to physically be in her presence and then be at her funeral was very disheartening to me and very hard to deal with. And I'm glad before she left here, I was able to celebrate her life in a way. The last production that I directed, I supported her in her 81st birthday. She was 84 when she passed. She just turned 84 this May. And we were able to celebrate her thanks to the organization Elders of Baltimore. It's a online blog where they celebrate the elders of this community, and they selected myself and my grandmother to be a part of their weekly celebration. And in conjunction with that, we got to give her the plaque and the photo from that they chose of us. And then the play we did dedicate it that day, and that was actually on her 81st birthday. So the last time I saw her up and vital and, mostly herself, she had just started to slow down at that point. So this has been, I've learned from her to be very calm and very strong. Two of her her best attributes, if I can say so myself. But it's been difficult watching my Aunt Val, one of my favorite aunts, and my Aunt Diane, her last few surviving children, deal with this. Because, that's their mom. And for someone to live 84 years and that's the only person it can be very difficult. So it was very emotional at her funeral watching my two aunts kind of take over that mantle for her and be the strong ones and not cry. And people know me, I'm not a crying person, but I had got choked up in emotion watching this. And if you see like the hats behind me, one of the reasons I started making hats was very much so due in part to my grandmother, because she always had a nice church hat on. They buried her in one of her favorite hats. And it was the last few weeks has just been difficult for that reason. And I didn't think normally I'm pretty put together at funerals unless it's somebody really close to me. But this one kind of took me off of my out of my space and out of my comfort zone. And if you're listening, please call in 410-642-9403, 443-642-9403. And call in if you've experienced Depo this time, share it with us, talk to us, how it's been. My friend Nicole, she has a podcast called Your Grieving Girl, and I actually was on one of her episodes. I was her first guest on her podcast, and we talked about my previous grandmothers who had passed away. And I'm definitely a grandmama's boy, but it's this one. It was different. I've had a grandmother that was killed. I've had a grandmother who died in my home. So I've experienced it all, but this one felt different because those two grandmothers, I was with them. I got to see them practically my great grandmother every day because her bedroom was across from mine as a teenager, and my grandmother was in our home every day. So to lose them, it was a part of me, but to not see her for over a year, almost 2 years, it was difficult. And anybody who's lost anybody, specifically over this pandemic, I know the grief is real and it hurts a little bit differently because things aren't done the same way. You're sitting in a room with limited amount of people, with masks on. You're trying to be social distance in a moment where you may need a hug or you may need somebody to comfort you, and it's kind of hard for people to feel comfortable doing that right now. Going into the cemetery is different because that normally is a place where you get to say your final goodbyes, and then you're able to say a couple prayers, maybe sing a song, and then you are being ushered out so the next family could come into the cemetery and bury their grandparents or their loved one. And that's exactly what happened. The repast was different because it was just a immediate family, which wasn't different because I have a huge family on my father's side, but it still was different because we were all spaced out still, and it was different. So the last couple of weeks definitely have been a test of faith. And I just realized how mean people could be because no matter what they know you're going through, what they need something, they still react. People have forgotten how to be comforting and be just be respectful. I want to say thank you to all the people who on social media, on calling, texting, sending out their prayers, sending me cards. I got so many flowers and cards. So I'm really thankful and very grateful. Many of my friends called me and messaged me, and people said some really great things on my voicemail and in my text box and on social media, on the one or two posts that I made. It was very much so a help. People, death is not for human consumption in general. So going through death like this, and this is I want to say this is the second big death that I've had throughout the pandemic. It really is, it really was hard because you could not be together. That week of a funeral is really a delicate time for families, and it's normally the time where families get together, probably the first time in however long, and it really it it is a time to grieve, a time to be together, and it just wasn't comfortable like that. The first funeral was my friend Martique, and I've never been in a process like this where you were very limited in your time and they were getting you in and out of the funeral home. But yeah, it's been pleasant nonetheless. But I want beyond it, I want people to start just treating each other better. I don't know what happened during this pandemic. I'm not saying it started during this pandemic, but this pandemic has definitely brought out kind of a clawing mentality in people that I've seen before, but not as much as I've seen in the past year and a half, almost 2 years now. But I wanted to start off by saying that I wanted to start off by just thanking my family for being so supportive to each other. And just again, to all the many people who have sent cards to me personally. I haven't gotten all those cards uh, to my aunts yet, but I will. And just thankful to all the people who just lent a hand, my friends who was really supportive throughout this process and helping me with various things, running the shop and helping me with business and just being helpful. So just thank you to everybody. And the next thing I wanted to talk about, we're waiting. Catherine will be here shortly, so just be patient. Please share this out. Please like, share, subscribe to our YouTube page on BeExposedRadio.com. Check out our new news feed. And you can like us on Instagram and Facebook at both Be Exposed Radio and the Artist Exchange. The next thing, speaking of the Artist Exchange, that I wanted to talk about was just the businesses and practices of Catherine's on our way. She just sent me a message. I wanted to talk a little bit about a thing that has happened to me. A friend of mine, and mind you, this happened in the course of this last 2 weeks, sent me a link to a page, the Everyman website. We're both members. Well, I was a member, and she's currently a member. And she sent me this link, and it had the name Artist Exchange. I forgot the last name, the last word of it, but they used the name. Now, there have been other groups, other social media, Instagram and Facebook groups started with the name The Artist Exchange. And I can't get into some things because I'm still doing some work in terms of securing my information. But I've been running the Artist Exchange since I was a sophomore in college. And that was about 22, 23. I'm now 38. So imagine running a business and starting a business where you are supporting people. And if you know me personally, you know how much I pour out to various artists and entrepreneurs in my community and children, family, anybody who needs help. Nate is always there. If you call me and say, I need your help, I'm there. So this hurt differently. It hurt differently because this is an established theater, equity theater house here in Baltimore City. So they have underwriting departments, that's their advertising. They have their media department. They have various departments that make up that business, Everyman Theater. And to find that they used my name to start an initiative similar to the work that I do, it hurt. It hurt because I had reached out to them several times to bring various directors and casts. If you don't know what Everyman is a theater, an equity theater house. That's Union Theater House here in Baltimore City, not Maryland, but Baltimore. It is probably less than 10 minutes drive away from me, home and work. And a space that I've been to several times. I've seen several shows there, supported various actor friends and director friends who have done work there. And I've reached out to them again. And I've actually had a couple actors from their shows on my station. Um, so to know that I know they researched the name to see who was using the name before they used it. I know they did this. I've heard personally that there was a meeting that happened a couple months ago where this name was brought up. So this initiative didn't just start this year. This was work that they have been planning to do throughout the pandemic. So to know that they still went along with naming it that, knowing that somebody has had that name established, both in business and just in work in general, for a number of years, is disheartening to me. Now, I'm not going to make it a racial issue because they have plenty of Black productions there. One of my, who I look at as my big brother in theater, I'm not going to say his name, but is a, you know, recurring actor there. Um, another friend of mine, been in shows up there as well. I've supported them, and it just hurts differently to know that this still's happening. Now, a lot of people reached out to me when I made a post on Facebook, basically saying, you know, with all the emails that I've ever sent that organization over the years, it's very disheartening to know that they would still be the big fish and, you know, do something like this. Now, some people have said, well, Nate, you're not a theater company. Well, I'm an actor. I direct. I produce plays. So I may not do it on the level of an equity house like Everyman, but I still put my work out there. You know, I put my rent money on the line plenty of times to produce a play or to help sponsor something or work with other people or do my work in general. Just reinvesting into my artistry. So I've definitely put the work in. But I'm tired of hearing this mantra called business. It's just business, Nate. And I get that. I'm sitting in the middle of a studio, so I understand business. I sell, I make, I create. I am my art. So I understand the business. I've registered my first business at the age, I believe I was 25 or 26. So I know what business is. You know, I did not handle my business, and I'll be transparent. I didn't handle it correctly in this moment. But on one side, this is the first year in the last, since the pandemic started, that I actually have gone out for grants of my own. I work with various organizations to partner with them to do grants, but I've never done physically my own. So part of me was like, I have to limit what I say because I don't know who sits on what board and what they can stop and what they can do. And I decided today is my first week back to this show in a couple of weeks. And I didn't mention on the other podcasts that I do either, because I was away from that one as well. But it has been extremely difficult and challenging to be quiet in this moment. I'm going through grieving. I'm thinking about my other two grandmothers at the same. It's just a lot, you know. I'm trying to expand. I'm in this new business, so I'm really thinking about all the things that are going on, you know, and to wake up to news that an established business has taken something that belongs to me, and just, you know, remixed the name a little bit. They just added a word and dropped off the thug. It really hurt. It hurt in a way where I know the years of work that I put into what I'm doing, and to know that they can just come in and do whatever they want or feel that they can do whatever they want. It was disheartening. Shout out to a couple of my friends who have reached out, who have connections with them, who are trying to set up a conversation with them and I. So shout out to them for trying to make something happen. But right now, I want people to just understand that this business thing has turned our Black community into savages. And that whole crab in a barrel mentality, it's been said more and more lately. We don't belong in that barrel. And not only don't we belong in it, there's room for all of us to get out of that barrel if we just work together. But for some reason, we are choosing to be these savage individuals who go for dollars instead of really sitting on and preparing our passion and just sitting in the blessings that are meant for us. I don't need all of your money and all of my money. I just want what's mine. That's it. So in the next couple weeks, I am just creating a strategy to understand what the next steps are, and I'll be letting information out. But the counsel that I have sought out right now has told me say as less as possible, and just do the work that prepares me for the next step. So just to all those types of business owners out there and artists out there, do better. Do better not only for other people, but for yourselves, because the way you get it is the same way you'll lose it. So just remember that. But I don't want to take any more time up. I want to introduce my guest, Miss Catherine Trotter Speaks, to the group, to the podcast. So how you been doing?
I am good. Thank you so much for having me. How have you been?
I've been great. We last saw you on this platform when you were speaking about your Speak Life tour, when
Yes.
you've been an advocate for young youth creatives and giving them not only a platform, but a space to have of their own. So that's the last time I heard from a Catherine Trotter, but last year I got to speak with you on a Zoom. You was hosting a Zoom to kind of share some of the initiative that you were coming up with and some of the projected things that you wanted to do with your business. So I'm eager to know what's next. And I saw some photos of some consulting of businesses that were starting. So I just want to know, I'm being nosy right now. Share with me all that's been going on with you.
Absolutely. Well, again, thank you so much. So since we last communicated and I've been on the show, what has been going on with Speak Life Tour, we actually, because of COVID, we have done a lot of virtual events. We had to shift gears, but we shifted gears because we didn't want to just absolutely stop, right? We didn't want to just not do anything. So one of the things that was born out of the COVID-19 experience is something called Speak Life to the Nations, which is still part of Speak Life Tour. The reason why we call it Speak Life to the Nations is because when COVID hit, it didn't just impact the US, it impacted many countries. So that's why we call it Speak Life to the Nations. Absolutely. And so what we did was we reached out to community leaders that was over civic organizations that was working with youth. Like we reached out to people in Africa, we reached out to people in London, Australia, right? And we had different communities represented with Speak Life to the Nations. So we had a Speak Life to the Nations this year again, so our second year. So we're excited about what we've been able to do with that because despite COVID-19, we still was able to make an impact in the hearts and minds of our young people, but also we were able to bring together other community leaders outside of the US and to kind of forge an alliance, if you will. That way we all can work together and support each other's initiative. And so I would say to any entrepreneur that's out there that's watching now, going to watch later, you know, sometimes you're going to hit those bumps in the road. We hit the bump in the road. We couldn't do a live show. So we had to go for plan B, right? Matter of fact, we was actually planning to do a show downtown Orlando. We already had the contract on the venue and everything. And boom, there go COVID, right? So we had to shift really quickly. And we know as entrepreneurs, and I know you know this as well, we have to know how to be adaptive and we have to know how to be fluid to shift at any given moment in time. So I would say as far as the update with Speak Life Tour, we had to shift, we had to pivot, but we still have been moving forward.
I'm glad to hear that because it wasn't too many organizations that were given artists that type of experience. We were doing showcases, but you had actually pivoted in that organization and made it an actual tour, giving young people that experience of being professional artists on the move, on like traveling with it. And most young people don't, especially inner city young people, don't get that chance until maybe further along or down the line. So them knowing that and having that experience was definitely, and this whole virtual world that we're in right now was definitely a great space to then help them learn how to reach out to the world and not just that 4-block radius, and even where it was possible for you to go on a tour, but beyond that. So I'm glad that has not been affected completely by this COVID-19. So much kudos to you. But personally, for you, beyond the Speak Life Tour, what have you been doing for yourself?
Yeah, so the name of my consulting company is CTR Strategy Solutions. And so our primary focus is we work with business owners from startup phase to growth phase. And we always like to say we help individuals take those scattered pieces that's in our mind. We all have different thoughts and creative ideas, but sometimes they're scattered. So what we do, we help pull all those ideas together, put it on paper, put it into a cohesive plan. For ultimately, the ultimate goal is to execute on it, right? Because there's no point in having a bunch of ideas if we can't execute. So my primary thing when I work with the individual, whether they're in startup or growth phase, we do a SWOT analysis. We determine what's the strengths, weakness, opportunities, threats. We look at what's working well, what's not working well, and then we put together a specific strategic outline for execution. And so October the 1st, actually, that's coming up right around the corner. I'm offering, it's the final webinar networking event. It's virtual, where I am going to actually be doing a coaching that night. And the title that night is 2022 Strategic Planning. We're going to be breaking down how you can break down the 4 quarters of next year to make sure you end this year with a strong game plan so we don't waste any time come January. And so specifically when I work with a business owner, let's say it's a nonprofit and they don't have their 501c3. We are able to assist them to get their 501c3 from the IRS. We're able to educate them how to complete a grant application, but more importantly, how to maintain their 501c3. Because people get it, but sometimes they're not doing their annual paperwork filing and they lose their status. And so I'm able to help that on if they're a nonprofit, but if they're a for-profit business, we're able to help them to create their 3-year business plan, including their marketing and financial projections. So we're very hands-on when we work with a business owner. The passion as to why I even started it was because individuals were coming to me and was asking for assistance specifically around strategic planning and organizational development. And that is my strong suit.
So you are definitely the person that I must talk to off of this camera. When you were coming in, I was speaking on a matter that after being in business for a number of years and working as a working artist, I had an organization take my name. And they're using the name for an initiative under their business. And it was, I was stuck between a space of not knowing what to do. I knew I couldn't just be angry and just go off. Because I had too much tied into grants. And if you know the grants, especially here in Baltimore, you don't know who may be sitting on that board. So I was trying to figure out, what the next step is and figuring that out. Is that the type of help that you can offer with your consulting company as well?
Yeah, and matter of fact, I will tell you even another story, even with Speak Life. Actually, I had to retain an attorney. Similar thing tried to happen with me in the Speak Life Tour. Was another company out in Texas was trying to cop the same exact name. And luckily, I was able to win that case because I got a lot of documentation when the Speak Life Tour got started. So I supplied all the documentation we needed, and I was able to win that. But yes, we will be able to discuss that as far as your business operations, because that's really what it deals with. Deal with business operations and looking at that. But yeah, we definitely can talk about that offline.
Because a lot of businesses, they look at LLC and don't realize that's not federally recognized. It is, but it's just like a sole proprietor on a local level. They don't see it as, they don't understand what incorporated is compared to an LLC. They normally get LLC because they see everybody else has been getting one and don't really understand LLC is just insurance measure, not really, your business being looked at and people not being able to take your name.
Because the LLC, the limited liability company, is really a disregarded entity. And as like you said, when it comes to tax time, you don't really get a lot of extra tax savings under the LLC structure. You really get a lot of savings if you filed as an S Corp. And again, I do have a business partner that I collaborate with for individuals that need to convert their LLC into an S Corp. But one of the things that I always tell people, you have to understand, what is your business operations? What are your business benchmarks? What are your business goals? Because a lot of times when people first get started, of course, we all have this excitement. We just want to start a business, but we have to know, what is the business? What industry are we going into? What's your competition in that industry, right? What are your financial goals? Like, how much capital do you need to get started? How much capital do you need every month to be sustainable? Every quarter, how much do you need coming in? So when I work with an individual, we break everything down. We don't just run off of passion. We have to run also off of, I always like to say, specific numbers. What are the numbers? What are the numbers we need to maintain the business, right? And so that's our approach, because if you don't know your numbers, you can't hit your financial goals. One of the things when I'm coaching with someone, I started a coaching series at the end of last year, going into this year, with a cohort group of individuals. I'm going to do the same thing this year, ending this year, going into next year. And it was about 5 individuals. They all had a financial goal for this year, myself included. Because you have to have accountability partners, especially when you're trying to take your business to the next level. You have to also be in a circle with people that's hungry just like you. And so we all had committed and said what we wanted for this year. Our financial goals monthly. I said mine, they said theirs. And I have been able to hit my financial goals, not because it's just about Catherine Trotter. It's only because I've been focusing on the numbers, and then I've been applying the action steps so I could hit the financial output that I was looking for. And the individuals that was in that circle, they also have been able to hit their financial goals because we had a very clear perspective. And so that's why if anyone is watching now later and you need some clarity, October 1st, you definitely want to plug in. That's my final webinar for this year. It's at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's 1 hour from 7 to 8. It's also a time where you can plug about your business, but I will be doing a training, and that's my final training for this year.
And I have to say, I love when people are consistent. And when I first met you and interviewed you to now, I've seen a consistent push. And it's not just, that didn't work out. Because it would have been easy for you to just speak life toward to the side and focus on you getting through this pandemic. But to know that you still kept it moving. Many people who are not in their lane will drop stuff when things get hot. So I'm always telling people, make sure this is what you want to do. And you're not just following a trend. Trend set versus following trends is 2 different things. You're creating work and you're creating lanes versus trying to follow what everybody else is doing. And that sets you apart from everybody when times get hard. This was a big downswing for many of us. I don't care how rich you were. Everybody was holding on to that wallet a little bit tighter because everything was uncertain. We wouldn't have imagined that we would still be in the midst of this almost over a year later. So, how has it been in that restructuring and staying consistent? How has this pandemic either pushed you or kind of took a little wind out of you?
Well, I'll tell you, when the pandemic first hit, for about a 30-day span, I think every business was touched. There was, no new business for about a 30-day span, 30 days. But the things that I had in place, and I learned this a long time ago, you always got to keep a funnel. So I already had a funnel of individuals that needed my services. And so I still was able to, bring in clients. I still was able to do business. It was a 30-day delay, though, when things really hit the fan, where I don't think anybody was spending anything because nobody knew what was going on. But after I got over that 30-day drought period, I bounced back actually with a lot of clients. And then as far as Speak Life to the Nations, people just gravitated to it because, mind you, people was home, they had nothing to do, and Speak Life to the Nations, it just caught on, And so it wasn't a challenge for me to get people to participate or even be a part of the virtual performance or, from even in other countries that participated. And I think the thing is, though, it's something that you said, and it's the same thing with you. You have a level of consistency as well with everything you do in your business. So when people see someone that's consistent, people respect that, people will respect what you're doing. And so, like I said, for me, it was a 30-day pause, but I still had a reserve in my queue. So I was able to kick back into gear. And I'm going to tell you one thing also that happened. A lot of people had also started to reach out to me because they got laid off or what have you, or they didn't trust where they was working at. They wanted then to start a business. And so my business didn't dry. And I'm just grateful and thankful for that I was able to still maintain. And I encourage anybody that's watching this show now or watching later, you got to make sure you always keep 10 in play. This is something I learned from a marketing class many years ago. And the concept behind keeping 10 in play, at any given time, you should have 10 potential new clients that want to do business with you at any given time. So in other words, I never turn away people. If somebody say, oh, I'm not ready to do business with you right now, some people cast them to the side, not me. I stay in communication. I send follow-up emails. I send encouraging text messages because they're going to remember. So when they're ready to do business, they're going to do business with me. Sometimes people push people to the side because they're not ready to do business then. No, that means you just need to continue to build a relationship. So when they are ready to do business, they're going to want to do business with you.
And just look into what they're doing so you can figure out how to support them. Because some people, especially in the beginning of a business, you've poured a lot of your own personal assets into creating that thing. So you don't have the money to do the things that a professional like yourself could help them with. So creating relationships, I think people are so in tune and I got to get to that person's wallet. No, you gotta get to their heartstring and their mind before you get to that wallet. Because I know I keep mine. I don't even bring my wallet outside. So you trying to get to the wallet going, you gonna be mad. Because I gotta still go back home and confer with self and that wallet to see what's possible. In terms of
I like how you put that.
I'm being honest. I've had to learn this because I used to, and I when I met you, I saw that in you as well. Just kept that wallet open and just was giving everything. I even throughout this pandemic, I done bought so many T-shirts and everybody who was starting a business, I tried to support them. But then you still have to be smart and be mindful and strategic in many different ways. But be mindful of what your needs are. Keeping that cup full at all times. So I've learned how to do that in the midst of this. Today's topic, we're speaking about passion, and I don't want to say passion over profit, but that passion versus profit idea. It has to be a balance in everything that we do, but I've seen a lot of people who are picking a profit and not really discussing or thinking about the passion side of it, where their heart, if that's where the heart is, but they're all inside that profit. So when you are introducing yourself to these new businesses and working with them, is that factored into the advice that you give them or the conversations that you're having with them?
Oh yeah, actually, I believe in being transparent and honest. I actually had to have a conversation with someone, and I told them, I said, I don't even think that you need to even start this business because you don't seem to be passionate about it. And I told them, it's not going to last. And I'm a straight shooter. And there's been clients that had my fee for service, and I've turned them away because I knew they weren't passionate about it. We all in business. Yes, I'm in business to make a living, but I'm also passionate about those that are passionate about what they want to do too. And I like to work with passionate people. I don't want to work with someone, especially if it's in the nonprofit arena, and I feel like they just want to hustle something that may feel and look good, but they really not about it. So I have declined from working with people, particularly in the nonprofit community, that want to start up a nonprofit, but I know their passion is not there. And I'm very honest, I'm very transparent. There was an organization I had to have an honest conversation with where all of the board members said they don't got no time to put towards it. I said, then why are you even trying to start it? And I'm a straight shooter. Say it again.
I said, just to say that they were on a board.
Right. Yeah, I mean, passion is everything. Let me tell you, people that your passion will precede you. And I say that because it's individuals that I met when I'm in my 20s, and they'll we may reconnect where I'm at and now, and they were like, oh, you still on fire, you still. I'm like, yeah. And I always tell people, the day my passion leaves is the day I'm shutting down Speak Life. It's also the day I'm shutting down my consultant business, because I can't do what I do without the passion.
Yeah, it fuels you. It really, many people, I'm normally here in my studio now, or if I was at the station or whatever work I do, I normally am the last one to leave. And because the type of passion that I have for being an artist and working with people, it super exceeds me being tired. Like I don't even feel tired until I've woken up and realized I just fell asleep doing what I was doing. And that's not healthy all the time, because you got to balance and everything. But I've seen a lot of people start businesses because it was just trendy. But I've also seen, especially in this pandemic, I've seen people fulfill their dream.
Yes.
And that's what I love to see. Like I love to see somebody in the middle of a hall they just started, like there all day long and doing. I love seeing that. But I'm just in a space right now where I just want people to begin to work together, basically. Just how do we work together? So what aspect of your consulting business are you teaching networking, or that the proper way to network?
Yeah. So actually, I believe in hands-on teaching. So this whole year, now prior to this year, I had my networking events in person. Because of COVID, everything shifted to virtual. So actually, every month, I do virtual meetings that I call them CEO network mixers, where individuals that are a leader of a nonprofit or leader of a for-profit business, we come on and we network. We literally have to engage each other. And the other cool thing about it is that I don't just engage people from one market. I engage people from multiple markets in multiple states. Now, October 1st is going to be the last one for this year. I always use the latter part of the year to just really unwind and plan for the next year. But literally every month, instead of just telling people you need to network, I host networking events. And then I invite my clients. That gives them opportunity to sharpen their skills to network. And it sharpens their skills to work on their pitch, because they got to pitch in real time.
Okay. That's a vital lesson, because I was used to being an artist that was either in my space creating or at rehearsal. So the networking tool was something, it naturally happened because I was around people, but it was something that I had to be purposeful with. Like I had to be on purpose with it, because we normally just think that we have to gravitate towards the people that look like they got money, or they got some type of access to something that can help us. But you have to begin to just talk to people, because it's the least likeliest people that you would talk to. When I remember a couple of weeks ago, I was looking at your Instagram and I saw my cousin on there, and I was like, okay, so there she got my cousin. So I was on it in that moment, like, let me make sure I continue to follow her, because I just love to see my loved ones win. I love to see my friends and family win. And I love that idea of all of us finding not money, but our passion. The money will come, because if you're chasing it, you'll just be in that circle forever. But I just love to find our passion, because we're at our happiest. You could be broke as all outdoors, but if you're following your passion, like your joy level just goes through the roof. And I know you see that with children and now with adults alike. When they're in it, you can tell the difference. And I meet very many consultants that will say they will decline somebody because they don't see them passion. But that's a waste of your time doing all that work for them, only for them to get bored with it and jump to the next thing when the next trend happens.
Absolutely. You know, you can tell if someone's passionate about it. You can just tell by what they say out of their mouth, their body language, you know, how they're communicating. I mean, I've had some people who come to me, what are you going to call your business? I don't know. Can you name it for me? No, that is the heartbeat of I can't name your business for you. So, but yeah, you know, it was a pleasure meeting your cousin. She had positive vibes, positive energy. That was actually a wine taste and pop-up network mixer that she attended. And it was just an awesome event. Everybody that came to that brought positive vibes. We were all able to network and exchange. And that is what it's about. You know, it is about connecting, collaborating, because your passion, let me tell you something. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you said a few minutes ago, sometimes people are looking for those that they feel that is the big wig or got this influence or what have you. Let me tell you, my strongest clients have not had just huge, you know, gigantic following or clout, but they were serious, they were focused, and it didn't take forever in the day for them to make a decision if they want to do business. Okay, the mark of a business owner is not about how many followers they have. It's not about, you know, are they this great influencer? Because I'm gonna tell you, I'm not going to say any names, but I met an influencer from off social media. And when I actually engaged with this person, they had a lot of followers, but when they were sharing with me behind the scenes of their business was all falling apart. So
because followers don't equate to sales. It doesn't. And if you get that one sale from that person, it doesn't guarantee you a continuous circle of sales from that person. So you can have 1 million followers and one sale a month.
Yeah.
So in your process, because it's not only an interview process for a new client for you, them interviewing you, it's also on your behalf as well. So when you're looking at potential clients, what are some of the things that you're looking for outside of the passion aspect of it? What are you looking for in them, or what do they have to have up front, or, you know, what goes into your selection process?
Well, I want to know, can they commit to 4 to 6 weeks of coaching at the very least? Because I have coaching packages that are some are 4 weeks, some are 6 weeks. Some people just need, you know, a couple of coaching sessions. Everybody is different, but my standard packages is 4 weeks or 6 week coaching packages. So, I mean, I want to know if they can commit to that. It's 1 day a week. We set aside 45 minutes to an hour weekly. So, you know, I've had some people that even put their deposit down, but then don't show up for the coaching session. So I want individuals that can make a commitment to building their own business, right? Because see, I give the tools, I break it down. I am not the kind of consultant. There's some consultants out there that just load their clients up with a bunch of stuff and tell them to go read it, and they don't break none of the stuff down. I'm a very hands-on consultant. So that means it's going to have to be a commitment. Will they commit to weekly coaching? Will they show up to the coaching session? And with the activities in between, from one coaching session to the next, will they commit to those activities? So when I say activities, I'm talking about there's time where they have to reflect on what are their objectives, what are their goals. They have to think on this. So when we have a coaching session, we can go over that together. So there's assignments in between coaching sessions that they have to work on. So the coaching session can be meaningful. I don't have fluff, rah coaching sessions just wasting people's time. We get into it so we can build a solid platform.
And I love that. And I wish I would have sought that out in this process for me, where I was 22, 23, starting a business out of me being an artist. I really wish because you avoid so many of the pitfalls and the mistakes. You're still going to go through a lot of them, but you avoid them, or you learn how to bounce back from them. And that's one of the things a lot of the young people I work with, I always tell them to either seek out a mentor and or a coach, somebody that can really help them in their field. Somebody who knows the language that they're speaking, not just, somebody that's going to tell you what they feel or their opinion on something, but really seeking out that type of support, because starting a business is not easy. A lot of my friends who found their passion in the midst of this pandemic, I can just about know when they're going to call me, because they get to that first roadblock and I can see a post on Facebook. I'm like, oh, I'm about to get a phone call. Because you just know the ebbs and flows of this. When people ain't spending money. At some point during the pandemic, all you had to do was just say you want to, and they were already sliding their card. And then at another point, you saw where that money was starting to get low and people started pulling back again. So people start businesses when they see the cards just flying, charge, they see that. And that's what gives them the impetus. But they don't realize 3 months later, just like when you rent an apartment, the first 3 months always easy because you prepared for that. It's that 4th month, 5th month, 6th month where you like, oh, I got to get this rent money together. I got to get that BGE, and you didn't think that far ahead. The idea of a business plan is not, it's not a fancy piece of paper. It's really the structure that's going to get you out of trouble when trouble does happen. So, in terms of working with your adults versus working with your children, what's the differences, or what do you see as the similarities even?
That's a good question. I would say differences with some of the youth and young adults. They're very eager to soak up knowledge. I would say very, very eager. It's not a huge challenge. With the adults, some come to me, some of you just say, well, I already know all of this. I'm thinking like, why are you coming to me then? I don't say it, but I'm thinking it. And so I'm like, well, if you already know everything, what is this experience really going to be like? Right. And I think you hit the nail on the head. You have to go to someone and seek out that consultant that meets your need. Like there's tons of consultants. I don't consult on everything. I consult on my niche area, right? And so there could be another consultant. I have a friend that's a consultant, and she focuses specifically on HR. I refer people to her because that's her focus, right? So, you got to know what you need. And so I would say, again, going back to the differences and similarities, the youth and young adults are very open and receptive to creative ideas and feedback. I'm not saying adults aren't either, but sometimes it can be a learning curve because it is, they're going into an uncharted area, although they may have been in business in other areas, but not this specific niche. Give an example. There was a lady that reached out to me. She has her MBA, okay? And, but it was just only piece of paper. She never actually ran a business. Now, whereas me, I don't have an MBA, okay? Disclaimer. But I have my bachelor's political science. I went to college in Notre Dame, took out a year in nonprofit management, but I have 18 years of experience in business. Whereas that individual just had a piece of paper and they were very, very cocky with me. That relationship did not proceed forward because it was no way I could help that person, because all that person could see was they had an MBA and I did not.
Get out your own way. Get out your own way.
Yeah. And so those are just some similarities or differences. I mean, then on the flip side, though, I have a husband and wife team that I'm working with here in Florida, and they are so enjoyable to work with. I mean, when I tell you they actually do the activities and the lessons, they are prepared for the next lesson. They come to the coaching sessions like it's a college class, so it's pros and cons. And really, at the end of the day, I think it goes back to the individual. What does the individual want? Are they hungry, right? Because I also have signed up for other coaching sessions that I need for myself in areas that I'm not strong in. When I enter into that space, I leave everything I know. I'm not bringing that to there because I'm stepping in that space. It's uncharted. It's something I need to learn. So I'm not bringing, Catherine, try to know that. No, I'm not bringing it because I'm coming empty so I can be filled up.
And that's a good piece of knowledge to lend to another another individual, because sometimes we get in that space of, because we're in what we're doing, I know more than you. And if you knew more than me, it would be working. Or if you do know more than me, something ain't working in what you know. So humbling yourself to grow. You know, that was my biggest pet peeve at one point, because I didn't have the help. So I was doing everything myself. I was everything from the CEO to the janitor and everything in between. And sometimes you have to break yourself of that energy where you don't want to take advice. You just want help. Know the difference. Know if you just need help versus you need advice and you need support in that consulting firm. But we're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back with Miss Catherine Trotter. Don't go anywhere. The Artist Exchange Radio Show every Friday at 5 p.m. only on BigExposedRadio.com. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Can train and certify over 10,000 students in 10 years. We can renovate over 10,000 houses in 10 years. This is the Inner City Trade School Project, sponsored by Get With The Program. It's our time and it's our turn.
I feel like once we address the needs of the students, we can ensure that they'll be successful in the program.
The main idea is to know the safety of the program. And
do Black Lives Matter?
Yes, yes.
We're going to show you how much Black Lives Matter, because we have a solution to the problem.
This school will help change the mindset of our young Black men.
And that's what we're trying to do, bring pride back to our community.
Substance use, anger management, mental health.
So here at the Inner City Trade School, that's what we're trying to build. That's what we're trying to create, an environment for our people to thrive.
So happy to see one of my Beanspoons family members today. I want to get back on the station, but I definitely want to run my ad for my business on Beanspoons Radio. They are attached to so many different businesses and great entities here in the city. If you have a business, you definitely want to put your business out there, commercial, shout out, anything, and sponsor one of the great shows that's on Beanspoons Radio.
Hey, what's up and welcome back. Welcome back to the Artist Exchange Radio Show. Today we have in the building, well, not in the building, but virtually, Miss Catherine Trotter. She is a phenomenal person. I first met her with the Speak Life Tour, and she's now doing the CTR
Strategy Solutions
programming, where she's helping entrepreneurs, first time established and everything in between, just reignite that business or just get it off and popping. Sometimes the hardest part is getting moving. You know, and many of us, we know how to do what we want to do, but all the other incidental things, like you just mentioned, HR and business planning and marketing, branding, all that was like, social media was very, very new when I started a business, and I didn't use it. I've never used it because it just wasn't, I thought it was for meeting friends and dating. I didn't know it was for, marketing. And then once I picked up on it, it has become a tool. But many of us don't know these things because we don't seek out the support we need in the beginning, before we start. We have a lot of people who just jump into business, especially artists, because we normally know what our gifts are. So we do that. But the business side of it is very important. I spoke to Catherine in the beginning about an incident that's I've posted on many of my social media that's been happening to me. And I would have never thought that would have happened to me, being as though I have saturated the internet with my company as I was told to do by my mentors. But it's still possible for you to miss a dotted I or a cross T and somebody to come in and take what's yours. So what is the advice that you give to your business owners in terms of safeguarding themselves against, copyright infringements or, people taking their work, making sure their business is legitimate, all those things? What are some of the advice that you give to them?
In addition, to, how like when you incorporate in the state of Maryland, you do your articles and all that, and that's wonderful. And sometimes individuals will do their trade name application, which is like $25 in the state of Maryland. But what people don't know, that's just for that state. That's not universal for all 50. You actually have to go through the whole process with protecting your business name, your logo, your trademark in all 50 states. And that's done on a federal level. So depending on where you may be at in business, those that's watching now, those that's going to watch later, I ask you, did you already do your trade name, at least for the state that you're in? And then I would say, if you did do that, then you need to take it to the next level and make sure you have your trademark secure in all 50 states and complete your application. Right. You need to do that because one of the things that's so pivotal, just like what happened with you, what happened with me, it was eye opener. And because here's the thing, a lot of times when you're starting something, you do just have the passion. When I started to speak life, I didn't in a million years think somebody was going to try to copy that. But it happened, and so I would say to anyone, if you're in the very beginning phases, you do have something that is so incredible. Even if you don't see the how large it can be, know that it's going to get large. Because here's the thing with business. People can smell greatness even before it becomes large, right? They can sniff it out. They can see it, right? Even in its smallest form. So I just want to encourage someone that's starting a business now. You're like, well, it's just a little something. No, it's not just a little something. It is magnificent, and you need to protect that legally. So as it does grow and it manifests itself, you're not in a situation where someone is copying your name, your logo, and so. I mean, it even went to a point where somebody even took my logo, put it on another page. I mean, it was some ridiculous stuff. But here's the thing: this is where your muscles as a business owner had to be strong, because when things like that happen, it can take the breath away from you because you know how much you put into it.
Ooh, about to take the breath out of somebody else. That's what's about to happen. But those things, and the reason you should pause for a second before starting things is because little incidental things that you don't think about can mean the difference. Prime example, my website. In the beginning, I had a partner, very beginning in college. That person was good at tech. I was good at the art, and we was going to come together and learn the business and just do it. And when that business relationship didn't go all the way, we didn't have anything in writing. I didn't put anything in writing, and that person took the website. Now, for me to go buy that today is $10,000. And that person purposely just put an arbitrary number on it, just so knowing I don't have $10,000 to give them. So in their mind, I could never have a website then. I figured out a way around it, but get everything in writing. Everything. If it's you and your mama in business, get everything in writing. Because tomorrow is not promised to either of us. And somebody can scoop in and say, well, I represent her, and I want this portion of it. And that's one of the biggest lessons that I'm currently reworking in me, getting everything. That whole friendship handshake is not, that's not how I do it.
You got to have it in black and white. And I would even say this, if you're going to even do business with someone, let's say you're seeking out for someone's services, make sure you get an MOU agreement of what they're saying, all this good stuff that they're saying they're going to do for you. Get it in writing. That's what I do when I work with someone.
For who don't know what an MOU is?
Yes. So it's a memorandum of understanding. And so in the MOU, it could be maybe a page to 2 pages long, but basically in that MOU, it's going to break down the working relationship between you and that other person. You're going to spell out whatever currency, whatever money is involved that's going to be in there. Mm-hmm. It's going to spell out what your role is, what that person's role is. You know, in this case, if you're retaining someone for their services, it needs to spell out what you're getting for the money that you're paying. But let's say if it's a partnership situation, let's say you may be partnering with someone. In that MOU agreement, it's going to state the responsibilities of each partner, and it's going to state any financial obligations of each partner. Because again, I always say you don't want no dead weight. If you're saying you're going to partner with someone, everybody got to bring something to the table. And if everybody's not bringing something to the table, it is not a partnership. It's a one-sided thing. And so you don't want no dead weight. And I'm speaking this to anybody that's starting business, you've been in business, you feel dead weight is all around you. You need to take an assessment of where you're at in your business and release the dead weight. So you can strategize this fourth quarter and go into next year being able to be successful. There was a lot of dead weight that I had to relinquish also in my life. And when I relinquished that dead weight, let me tell you something, my business this year, not only financially soared, which it did do that, but also in every area in terms of where my clients have been coming from. Because when you got dead weight around you, it stops your growth. It stops your business growth. You can't have all this toxic around you and think your business is going to grow. It will impact your business because some people say, well, I don't know why my business is just not growing. Check the dead weight around you.
So question, what if you are the dead weight?
There it is. That's a very good question. Let me tell you something. I've had to check myself. I'm gonna use myself as an example because there was a season where I wasn't thriving the way I needed to be. I had to check Catherine. I said, Catherine, why are you not hitting your goals? What are you not doing? You see what I'm saying? And so one of the ways in which I tweak that, one of the things I always do, if I'm lacking in a certain area or not measuring up, I put it out there to my circle so they can hold me accountable. So I would say if you're not pushing yourself forward, or maybe, you know, you're the dead weight, you got to have a circle that can remind you, okay? I can even keep it more real than this, even just on a personal, I'm going through a personal life change with my eating habits and getting all and getting some good eating habits. Let's just say that. And I have a friend and she said, can you want me to be your accountability partner? I said, sure, you know, because she's my accountability partner as far as my workout regimens, eating habits and so forth. And she'll just message me randomly, you know, and to make sure I'm on point. But I need that, right? We all need accountability. If we can say we can do it all ourselves, you know, hats off to you if you feel that way. But I know I need accountability. So I, was dead weight. And let me kind of even be more clear about when I say I was dead weight. In other words, yes, I knew what I wanted to do, but I allowed certain things around me to hinder my daily action steps. I always say your daily action steps at the end of the day is going to dictate to how much money you generated at the end of that month. If your daily action steps are not consistent, don't expect this grand amount of money. Some people are like making it rain. We didn't make nothing rain because the daily action steps did not measure up.
Yeah. And that's part of that plan that you have to put into. And I think coming into this as an artist, I was totally blown off course. One, when I got that first tax bill, that's the one that kind of be like, sir, get yourself together. Because it's an astronomical number, but she's like, I'll deal with that. No, sir, no. Because our IRS will keep knocking. They don't care about you pushing the end button on the phone. They gonna show up. They gonna show up where you least expect it. So figuring these things out as a business owner, it's really, even because some people, they can't wait. They can't wait. For me, I was already in the business. So it wasn't a waiting issue. I was already an actor. I was already generating money from doing what I was doing creatively. So now I just got to figure out the business side. And some people find themselves, I'm sure you get a lot of business owners that's probably been in business for years. And you're like, well, sir, you didn't see your leg cut off? Like, but no, they were in it. They were daily doing it. But you have to figure that out along the way. Take a moment. If it's just one aspect, getting yourself trademarked or figuring out step by step, I'm gonna do this today, I'm gonna do this tomorrow, I'm gonna do this in a week. Do it now. Like for me, I need a casting trial at this point because it has gotten to that point. But it was just years of just getting by or just, I got this lump sum of money. Let me pay my rent. Let me pay my bills. Let me buy more supplies and not thinking about, I should have saved something. Or, I should have put it into this versus this over here. Not knowing it, but just, I knew how to make the money. But what to do with the money, that was, that was the part that was messed up. Or the business itself. So I want to, as we close out, I really want to say thank you, one, for coming. And two, I need your help. And three, what are some things that you have coming up? I know you having a virtual symposium coming up. Let us know those things and where we can find you at on social media and how we can register for those events.
Yeah, so actually tomorrow, there is a economic empowerment symposium. It is virtual. If you go to my Instagram, you can click on the link in the bio and it'll take you to the economic symposium registration link. It's just $25. But let me tell you something, with that, you're gonna get a full day, not just only of me speaking. There's like, when I was in fly, like 15 different speakers. It's going on all day long until 6 p.m. It kicks off officially at 10 a.m. and it goes all day until 6 p.m. with a platform of speakers. They're going to be talking about on financial literacy. How do you build your business? Me, personally, my topic is on how do you get your 501c3, because there's a lot of individuals that want to know that. And my Instagram handle is CTR Strategy Solutions. And if you go to the link in my bio, you just click on the link that says Empowerment Symposium, Economic Empowerment Symposium, and it'll take you right there. And then, of course, October the 1st, that's no charge. That's where I'm doing my last CEO networking mixer of the year at 7 p.m. I am doing a training that night specifically on 2022 strategic planning, and then it will be built in time for business owners to network with each other virtually. Also, before I forget, that same night, I'm also going to be doing an education series on life insurance. I'm also licensed as a life insurance broker, and we teach people how to, really create tax shelters for themselves with life insurance, and how to have life insurance and build cash value in your life insurance. And as that cash value grows, you can extract it to do other things for your business. And so that's something I'll also be talking about on October the 1st.
Okay, I really appreciate it. And my last question to you is, what question would you ask your 100-year-old self, and what advice would you give to your 17-year-old self?
Okay, my 100 and my 17, right? My 100 self, wow. I would say make sure before I get to 100, that I also took quality time with myself.
Okay.
Meaning, because sometimes when you're in business, you can be in go mode. And that's something I'm learning to do now. Like, I love botanical gardens. So I would tell my 100-year-old self, make sure you have more excursions and experiences, that I went to multiple places and countries that I was able to gain not just only new clients, but experiences. What I would say to my 17-year-old self is, make sure you circle yourself around individuals that are going to pour into you, that it's reciprocal, not just taken away from you. They're pouring into you and you're able to pour into them. I would tell my 17-year-old self, make sure you're around individuals that's going to pull you up and eliminate any toxic environments.
And that question I give to a lot of the young artists that I work with. It is a question that I use as a meditation prompt, sometimes as a writing prompt when I write in my journal, and it will change as you change. As you grow or move backwards, so will your responses to your 100-year-old self and your 17-year-old self. So to the people out there, use it as a meditation prompt. It's a good indication, a marker point of where you are in that moment, because it tells you a lot about yourself in that moment based off the question and the advice that you ask to those two ages, those two different parts of yourselves. So thank you again. Anything that I can do, as I tell you every time, don't hesitate and let me know how I can set up my consultation.
Absolutely.
Because we ready.
All right. I'll DM you.
Okay. Thank you again, Catherine, for joining us. I appreciate you. And don't forget, this weekend and next weekend, I'll be at the Motor House Artist Space. We'll be doing our second week and third week of Rachel. So get your tickets on Eventbrite. Brown paper tickets, I'm sorry, at Rapid Lemon Productions. Come out, see the play. There are plenty of other things going on in the city. There's also a funk show going on at the Bowl Space on 25th and Charles. A bunch of my friends are a part of that. Just indulge in the arts, support each other. Let's try to be positive. Let's turn this narrative around with the crab in the barrel and just support each other and be respectful. Again, COVID is still real. Wear your mask, whether you get vaccinated or not. Do you, but be safe, be respectful of others, and just love on each other. See y'all later. Peace out, Miss Trotter.
Peace. Take care.
Take care.